you're gonna go to the TikTok diner after this and get some food. That's what I recommend.
Okay.
Because you know what? It's like Nathan's, which is not the real Nathan's. It's some garbage stuff, and then pizza, and then you know.
You told me to get pizza.
Yeah, you want to get real New York pizza, but you don't want to get like.
So what makes New York pizza?
What makes New York pizza is that.
My impression from a Canadian, it's thinner but long, like big sliced.
Yes.
And it's just basically like pepperoni. But it's very like thin, so it's like you have to like fold it in half kind of style.
No, it's that the sauce is perfect, and it's not too thick and it's not too thin, and the sauce is perfect and it's crusty, and it's the cheese sauce ratio.
That's what makes New York pizza.
It's the cheese sauce ratio.
So if we order New York style pizza, it's usually bigger and like flatter.
Yeah, I mean you're trying, but you just you got
right.
get the sauce right.
All right.
That's all right. That's good things about Canada. Like you come out of Canada and you're pretty cool.
Sort of, I guess.
Well, you're in my city. You're in New York
yeah.
for Glory 43, guys.
You haven't really hyped it up to me yet. I'm waiting for the hype up about New York.
The hype is that Glory 43 is at Madison Square Garden.
I agree.
Which is absolutely the mecca of combat sports. Mm-hmm. Have you been to the Garden yet?
No.
You've never fought in the Garden before?
Never fought in the Garden. This is the closest I've ever been to it.
Yeah, you can throw a rock. It's across the street. How are you feeling about being in the Garden?
I kind of get chills. Like when I think about it, like I got goosebumps thinking about it because I think it's something that I've always wanted to do, right? I know you were telling me earlier that's something you really wanted to do, but I think we're in the same situation. We'll be, I'll be broadcasting there instead of fighting there, but still cool.
And this
still
is like
excited.
Your 20th or so broadcast with Glory.
I think just under, yeah.
I mean, we're friends and everything, and I don't mean to blow smoke up your butt, but I will say they did the right thing by hiring you. Yeah, they really did the right thing by putting somebody who really knows what it's like to be in there. I find that the best commentators are articulate fighters.
I still think it's the challenge for me is still trying to find myself. Even after 20 shows, I still think I'm trying to find myself on there.
All right, so how have you improved since you started commentating?
I'm a perfectionist, so like I literally, I have a hard time watching myself.
Me too.
So a lot of times when I'm studying these fighters after, I have to put the mute. I mute it sometimes.
Right.
Because I find I say the same words. I'll always say, what a big shot, what a heavy hands, or pressure. Awesome.
I say awesome all the time.
Awesome.
Awesome.
That was an awesome
I'm like,
shot.
oh, God, awesome.
Awesome. I say big. Everything's big. Big. I actually talked when I was on the Joe Rogan podcast. He says big all the time too.
Really?
So I start picking up on those things now. So now I'm very critical when I watch all commentators.
Yeah, and you got to stay away from and likes and your nose and all those things that you don't realize that you do. What I used to do when I first started commentating and interview fighters, I still do it, but I do it like maybe 90% less. So I would say So just start talking.
That's like a New York thing. Yeah.
I know.
It's a New York thing.
It is. Yeah. They're like a hip hop. Like hype myself up. So I went for hypnotherapy to stop or to hear myself saying So now instead they do what they call the noddies, where you just listen to. When you nod, and instead of saying and everything. Because
I always say If you ask me a question, I'll tend to say first.
Really?
Or if you ask me, I'll repeat the question before I say the question. So it's like, okay, we just asked the question. You don't. But I think that's because we're thinking about what we have to say next, right?
You do, and that's how it gets you prepared to say the next thing. It gives you like a second.
A second to think. I guess it comes with experience.
It's hard. Nobody realizes all the things that go into public speaking.
Oh, it's hard. It's so hard.
What was your first show like?
I was just nervous. I had no clue. I was so prepared. Like I had everything written down just to make sure. Now I'm a little bit more cool. Because they said, don't be anyone else. Because I think I was trying to be a commentator. It's like, don't be a commentator. Say, be yourself.
And coming up next. Yeah. But you're like, no, I can't do that.
I don't sound like an idiot like that. I'm trying to sound a little bit like Morrow, a little bit like Todd Grisham. I'm trying to throw and be these guys. And they're like, no, just be you.
Yeah.
Be you. We want you. So that kind of cooled me down. And I don't have to know everything.
Right.
I want to know everything, but I don't need to know everything. And so I have to understand that my job is to call what I see. Yeah. So I think once I've started relaxing a little bit, the other issue I was doing, and I found I kept commenting on what they weren't doing instead of what they were like doing successfully. I'm like, this guy would land something really well, and I'd be like, well, he's got to put the pressure on. He's just standing there. So I needed to be more of, compliment the guy on something rather than, because as a coach too, I'm constantly looking at ways they can do better.
Improve. That's what I was just going to say. That comes from teaching.
Absolutely.
So you're looking at like how to make somebody better, and your coach hat and your commentator hat, they're similar but different.
Oh yeah, for
you know,
sure.
Like you'll know, okay, if he was to do this, or maybe his coach will say that in this round, and let's see how he comes out into the second round. I do color commentary on kickboxing, and I do play-by-play and post-fight interviews, and I noticed I did the same thing, and in my first couple shows, I just sounded so critical.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I beat this guy apart. Like, it's
yeah, you feel bad, but you don't mean. That's the other thing I was going to say to you that's really difficult for me is all these guys are fighting. We fought on the same cards all over the world together. We got to know each other really well. And then all of a sudden, 2 of my friends are fighting.
Yeah.
So I think, and when you're friends with someone, I think they expect you to kind of bring that friendship into the fight, where it's like, no, I really can't. I have to be professional. I have to call the fight as I see it. So I've had friends really pissed off at me. I've lost a couple friends during the commentary. They didn't like how I called it.
You can't say who?
No.
Okay.
I can't.
That's fine. It's fine. But I understand that as well.
It's frustrating. To me, it honestly pisses me off that these guys can't understand that there's friends and there's a professional side.
But also, too, if you're friends with somebody, your job is to be honest with them. So Absolutely. If you watch them in the ring, you have to say what they're doing, what they're not doing. You have to paint the picture, tell the story. So you can't get mad if you're telling the truth when you're commentating.
And sometimes when you're watching live and then you rewatch it, you'll see 2 different things.
Yeah.
Right? Because the thing I hate, and I'm happy Glory changed it, Glory has open scoring now. So the challenge of being asked after every round who I thought won, I was like, well, I'm not a judge. I can give you my opinion based on things. So that was where I think people kind of get upset.
Right.
Because like, oh, well, I won that round. Well, I'm like, well, the controversy came with arm kicks. Arm kicks. Kickboxing and arm kicks drive me nuts.
Oh, explain that. Explain what arm kicks are for people.
Well, there's a strategy. We're going to say more the Muay Thai practitioners like to kick the arms a lot.
Yeah.
It's a good weapon. It's a good skill to do. It slows down someone's boxing. It slows down someone's output. And they're damaging a lot of times.
And it stops your rhythm.
Stops your rhythm. It stops your combinations. Right. Absolutely. But in kickboxing now, they're looking at damage and clean scoring strikes. So would you call a kick on the arm a clean scoring strike?
I wouldn't. What I would see
you call it as a scoring strike?
No, I would see ring generalship. I would see the person is controlling the fight. I would see that the person was more active. Yeah. But it's not an actually scoring strike.
So now if you're the arm kicker and I need to counter back, say you kick my arm and I come back with 2 punches that sort of land but not land, I would give a lot of times the advantage to the person throwing the 2 punches after the kick.
Okay.
Where I think the scoring part where people need to understand, if it stops the person, I think it could be a damaging strike. But, I mean, that's where a lot of controversy has happened.
I see.
Recently with kickboxing, because a lot of Thai fighters are coming into kickboxing.
Right, and this is the biggest issue, and we've seen this a million times in New York. Scoring like it's in Thailand and scoring like it's in, well, not even New York, but just the systems that kickboxing is running now. You're looking at effective damage. So let's run down for those people watching so they understand when they're watching the fight. What are the judges looking for? What's the number 1, 2, 3, 4?
Well, Glory uses knockdown. So if you win a round, if you knock your opponent down, you can't lose the round, obviously. Okay. So knockdowns is number 1.
Even if you're beating the crap out of somebody, but then they knock you down.
Knockdowns always wins the round.
Okay.
The second, it's damage. So who's doing more damage? So you could be landing more, but if I'm landing and doing more damage, the round goes to the person doing more damage. So I
peppered you with 3 shots. But you hit me with a huge right hand.
And every time I hit you, you kind of stumble, you hit it, damage wins the round.
Okay.
The third would be clean scoring strikes, but with an emphasis on spectacular techniques. So they're looking for high kicks, spinning kicks, back kicks, spinning back fists. Right. Spectacular technique score higher.
Flying knees.
So that would be 3, exactly. Okay. Fourth, we're looking at just regular scoring strikes. And then the last one would be aggressiveness. So they're looking for. So Glory scoring is based on action, aggressiveness. They want the fighter to go forward. And I guess that's where kickboxing has made its name. And it's, again, the 3-3-minute rounds helps that. You know, in the Muay Thai, the 5 rounds even, slows the fight down.
Right, right. So a Muay Thai fighter coming into Glory, what adjustments do you think guys like let's see some of the bigger names in Muay Thai that have
Sidichai. Yeah. Sidichai was killer, and he's been dominating. Like, he's been doing really, really well.
Well, he was an aggressive fighter to begin with. You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But even him, he was saying, because he had a few close fights with Robin Van Roosmalen, and he was saying in his last time he fights, like, I got to change the angle from the kick. He's like, I can't kick the arms too much. I got to kick the legs a little bit more. I got to go to the body. I got to go to the head. They just weren't scoring. And especially in Europe, you got to think, I think the judge who's scoring the fight, if you value Muay Thai, you'll value those kicks on the arm a little bit more than, say, maybe a European ref who's grown up with K1, Glory Rules, fighting, kickboxing. So I think it's the eye of the judge that really determines. Yeah. And you've seen some crazy calls where you'll see one person have all score in, 30-27 one way, and then the splits goes 30-27 the other way. So judges don't even know what they're looking at.
Yeah. So is it hard for you to make the decisions in commentating knowing that they might be totally disagreed with?
When I don't know, you can tell, because I kind of like play fair, and I'm like, well, it's close round. But sometimes, that's the other thing. Sometimes I just say it, and those are the ones you get in trouble sometimes. But you have to. I think that's the whole point of being a good color commentator, is to be honest. To be honest and tell the story. It's funny, when I first started, I was really, really nervous, and Joe Rogan was gracious enough to talk to me. Well, I emailed him, and I didn't think I'd get a response, but I just gave it a shot. Yeah. And I wrote, Joe, commentating my first show, I'm super nervous. Can you give me any advice? He says, yeah, I'll give you 3 things. 1, call it like you see it. Yeah. 2, speak clearly. And 3, don't be as annoying as me. Yeah. So it's funny, we're so critical of ourselves, we're so like, I'm always like, oh, well, I don't like the sound of my voice, or I should have said this and I should have said that. But you have to forget about it and just go in there and just do it. Just be yourself. How did you get the job? Well, after I won the world title, I suffered from concussions, which, it's the bad side of the sport sometimes. But while I was off healing with my concussions, they tried me out at Glory 23 Vegas. It was their idea? Mixed with my management and my team. We're like, hey, you got your university degree, you're a teacher, you speak pretty well. They're like, you should try it. I did it. I thought I did terrible, obviously. And then all of a sudden, I was like, well, I didn't hear anything back from them. This was Glory 23. And then all of a sudden, I got the CEO, John Franklin, sent me an email. It was like, hey, do you think you want to do commentary? I was like, sure. So they gave me a 2-fight deal, and 2-fight led into, the full year. And now I just signed another year in January. Yeah. So it's been amazing. I get to travel the world. I get to still watch all the fights. I get to call the fights, and I get to keep my head safe. All right. Well, that's the other thing. So I have another question for you. Do you ever get the shaky leg? And all right, so I don't. The stanky leg or the shaky leg? The shaky leg, and I'll explain what it is. So sometimes when I'm watching a fight and I'm commentating, nothing comes out. And no, and it's my weight class, and it's women, and I start doing this. Because inside, I'm like... Oh, you get the shake. Yeah, I get more of the twitch. Yeah, do you slip stuff? Yeah, oh yeah. Do you get, especially when it's my... And then I think that's that animal in me that misses the fighting or thinks about what I would do, or, and then I can shut that off because I'm watching the fight. Yeah, but I just noticed that even though it's off up here, my body is still reacting to it. So do you ever, that flutter to fight, does that happen sometimes when you're... Yeah, so for sure. Yeah. Like there's even times on the chair, I'm sitting up, I'm like this, I'm trying to look in, I'm getting so into it because it's like I'm so into watching the fight. Not only am I a commentator, like I'm a huge fan of the sport, and a lot of these guys I'm emotionally connected with. We're friends, we hang out, we train together. Yeah. Like back home, I own a gym called Bazooka Kickboxing, and I have some Glory fighters who train with me. I have Matt Embry, I have Robert Thomas. Yeah. And now I have, one of the older Glory fighters, Troy Sheridan, with me. So, I have these Glory guys. So when they fight, it's kind of like, it's hard to be like... How do you do it without it being a conflict of interest? Well, they have their own corners and that kind of stuff. So they come to me to just get some training as well. Because it's tough in Canada. We don't even have a professional league. MMA's legal, but we just got kickboxing. So there's talk that Glory's coming to Toronto in November. So that's huge for Canada. It's huge for me. Like, I mean, talking about Madison Square Garden as your dream. Toronto would have been my dream to fight. Never fought at home. Actually, New York was, if you look at my fighting career, New York's basically my hometown for fighting.
Oh, you fought here a lot. That's how I remember you. You beat a lot of my friends.
Yeah.
And, well, yeah, but
who the thing... I think Max Chen, you're a friend
Max Chen, who you head kick, right?
That was my first pro fight.
Yeah. That was, because he's a really good Sancho fighter and things like that. So that was a big fight. Sean Hines. I don't remember how you beat him.
Low kicks.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. He's usually good at checking them, so you've got some speed there.
Yeah, he was good. Dorian Price, I fought. Was he a friend of yours?
No. But you fought
Ben Case.
Yeah.
Alex Barrios.
Yeah, Alex Barrios. Nice. Another nice guy.
Sean Yarbrough.
But what was interesting about you is you would come here and you'd be the Canadian, but New Yorkers loved you.
Oh, yeah.
And because you were such a gracious, cool guy, they would cheer for you towards the end, even though you weren't the hometown boy.
If I have a documentary, and they asked me what one of my favorite moments in fighting was, and that was there was all that controversy, like East versus West. They said New York is garbage because they don't allow elbows. It's fake Muay Thai.
Yeah.
So we brought in, Justin Blair, Friday Night Fights, brought in...
my boss.
Yeah, who you had on the podcast as well. He brought in Sean Yarbrough from Vegas, and that's when New York basically took me as a hometown guy. And when I knocked him out in the first round, like, it was just crazy. Like, I think it was the Broad Street Ballroom, is it? Just was crazy. Everyone was yelling. I'm in the corner doing jumping jacks, and everyone was cheering. It was like, that was the moment I knew.
Because if you win the crowd in New York, it's like Gladiator.
Oh,
like, you must win the crowd. Like,
and then I came back with Glory, and then people still followed me on because they didn't see me since a few fights, and all of a sudden Glory New York comes, and I fought Francois Ambang.
Yes, another
and then I was like,
power
amazing.
puncher.
Oh yeah,
that guy can hit like a truck.
I was terrified when I fought him. I was like, big, scary, ripped, and I was like, jeez. But yeah, we ended up becoming good friends.
Oh, he's a lovely person.
One of the nicest guys I've met.
Definitely. But that's the thing about kickboxing that I love so much, is that there's a real camaraderie within the sport, and there's a big energy within the sport. But what is the truth about it is it hasn't gained as much popularity and notoriety as I would like.
For sure.
And I don't understand that. And nobody can really answer that. So
what's your thing? What's your opinion on it?
Well, we didn't have a show like The Ultimate Fighter, right? That like changed.
A lot of people say that.
Right? That kind of changed the market. We've had the women's show on Oxygen Network, Fight Girls, that made some stars out of some women with kickboxing. That was a Muay Thai show. But I think
you're talking the old Fight Girls?
The old Fight Girls. I mean,
with
that was
Felice Herring.
Yeah, like so before I just say, oh, there's no reality show. Somebody's gonna bring that up.
Was it? Yes, I like that.
Yeah, it was. It was cool.
It was good. Yeah.
And that was like 2006 or something like that. But The Ultimate Fighter, that was 2007, and kickboxing really hasn't had anything like that. But I also think it's about fighters developing their own brands and personalities too.
Great.
And I haven't seen a lot of that. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's because we're a little bit more leaning towards the traditional martial arts than MMA is. So for us to be boisterous or boastful, we don't have that because we're kind of taught to be a little bit more humble.
More humble, yeah.
And so that's the more traditional element of martial arts, when MMA is more of a sport than a traditional martial art. And so that personality thing, I don't know. I think that might be part of it, but I can't really tell you because I enjoy both equally. A good fight's a good fight to me.
But yeah, you got to think too, the opportunities here. Like now that I've traveled a lot with Glory and being in Europe, it's such a different feeling and vibe in Europe where it's just popular there. It's kickboxing in Europe is like UFC here, where they they embrace their athletes. They're popular. Like when Rico Verhoeven's fighting, even when I fought Glory 6 Istanbul, Golken Saki, there's like 10, 12, 13,000 people in these stadiums with these Europeans. So Germany, when Rico Bader fought, was insane. It was like 15,000 people. The Amsterdam shows will get close to like 6 to 10,000. So the Europe shows are a lot bigger. I think it's more popular. There's more opportunity. There's TV networks that play them more often.
Right.
I just think we need more exposure to it. And once people see it, I think the Glory brand's incredible.
It really is, and it's built for action. I mean,
Absolutely.
The way that you fight is built for action. I know a lot of people complain about elbows, but the fights would stop. Yeah, it would slow it down. It would stop it. I particularly with Muay Thai love the clinch. I hated it at first because I would go home. I know, but I love utilizing the tool. But I would go home and my neck would hurt so bad that I couldn't turn my head. And Phil Nurse is my trainer, so it was like a lot of clinch
master.
And it's painful. But being able to utilize it, especially as a smaller fighter, I loved actually having that tool. So that's taken away in Glory. So the rule is you...
But you said you had a boxing background as well.
Oh, yeah, it was my first
So there you go.
So
if you're boxing, people are going to clinch you and slow you down.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Look at that too. Anyway, not about me. So we know that Glory, you have the clinch for 2 seconds, you have to throw a knee, and then you're separated.
Yeah, you have to initiate right away.
Right.
If you're active, that can keep you up to 5 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Active in the clinch means continuing to throw.
Continuing to throw, but you can't grab, wait, and then throw. You have to initiate right away, push off, attack again, but you got to keep the action going.
And the theory behind no elbows and no knees is no clinching is basically to keep the action.
To keep the action,
right.
yeah.
So
Because when we went through that scoring, right, they're looking for knockouts. Even at one point, gloves were being changed because the padding was all off and there wasn't enough knockouts. It's made for knockouts.
So. Okay, wait. So the gloves.
So with Hayabusa, the gloves were all off and they weren't being proper. So they, our head of talents, kind of redesigned the glove to make it more fight friendly.
That's funny that you say that. My old Hayabusas were super thick.
Yeah.
And
I have the original pair at home too.
And they were really thick, and there was no pop in my punches. And so I switched to a different brand, and now that I feel like the pop in my punches are back, and I'm like, I don't know, my punches are right.
Yeah.
And I realized it might have been the glove. Now I'm a different Hayabusa now, and I can actually close my fist a little bit better, and it's better. So I don't know if that
was probably the change, yeah.
Okay.
Because they weren't just as comfortable. Guys weren't being able to get their hands in nicely. Right. So those little adjustments, now they got some good gloves. Yeah.
Wow, that actually makes a huge difference.
For sure.
All right, take me through this fight card. Let's
take
a look at it and get prepared for Saturday night, July 14th at Madison Square Garden. All right, so we have first on the Glory card is the amateurs, and you guys aren't calling the amateur action.
No, we start at the Super Fight Series, yeah.
Okay. How do you feel about tournaments?
To be honest, my honest opinion, I don't like them.
Yeah.
This is me as an athlete saying, I know a lot of kickboxers out there like them, and it's a part of the history in kickboxing, but I'm also everything I do is educated. It has a reasoning behind it. Everything is calculated. Everything has a purpose. So fighting 2 fights in one night just doesn't seem smart to me.
I've never done it, but what always concerned me about it is, so after I would fight, right afterwards, I would be super hype and couldn't calm down for a good couple minutes, and then all of a sudden I would crash so hard. So the idea of having to get back in the ring after that crash, I don't know if I could do it. So it was
tough. I'll tell you a funny story after.
Okay.
How ridiculous it was. I fought in Japan. I fought Raymond Daniels first, and I was terrified because if you're a kickboxer, it's fine. I've seen your style. You're 1-2 low kicks, hook low kicks, simple. But when you fight someone with a different style, it gets scary. Because you don't know what angle.
It's hard to read.
And the last thing you want to be at is on someone's highlight reel eating a spinning heel kick through the head. So that's scary to death to me to just, watch replay of this guy knocking me out with a spinning kick.
Yeah, but you nullified his movement with leg kicks,
Pressure and low kicks, and then I ended up knocking him out with a high kick.
Yeah.
But again, huge. He was 24-0 when I fought him. Knocking everybody else. I was all hyped up, and then I was like, oh shit, I gotta fight again.
But okay. I gained so much respect for him after your fight because we were joking, and I like Raymond Daniels. I remember him from the WCL and stuff, and we were joking that's what happens when karate fights Muay Thai, joking around. And then we were like, oh, I don't know if he's going to last in glory. But you saw him, after you did that to him, you saw him change his style and be able to mix more of those styles and put them together. So I did gain a lot of respect for him.
Like, I mean, he did improve a lot. Personally, I would have liked to have seen him fight. I think he fights high level. He has 3 losses. Yeah. Me and Nikki Holtzkin twice.
Yeah, those are not 2 people to be ashamed of.
Under that, they're not really bigger names in the sport. So I would have loved to have seen him fight like the Myrtle Grunhards. I would have loved to have seen him fight some of the other good welterweights in the division. Johan Kongolo would have been a crazy fight. What other welterweights would be good for him to fight? But yeah, I mean, those are the fights I was more intrigued to see than, it's like if he's fighting a guy with 2-3 kickboxing fights, yeah, they're going to get caught with those kind of things. Right. He fought Ambang, which I thought he caught that spectacular 360 back kick knockout, but
well, I needed to see more. But he's stiffer so that you can pull those things off on him. And
I just would have liked to see him fight higher level guys that are going to pressure him a lot more.
Oh wait, we finished your story.
Yeah. So after that fight, I was all hyped up. I was cheering, like finally good. I was like, oh, I totally forgot that I had to fight again. So next thing you know, they go in the back and like, you got to change gloves. Okay. So I think it was Daniel Guida fighting before me, knocks this guy out, and they're like, you gotta go now. I was like, I just got to the back room. Yeah. You did. And again, adrenaline rushing. I had to go pee. They wouldn't let me take my gloves off, and they sent me out. So one of the most embarrassing times of mine, and I don't think I've ever mentioned this, so it's the first time I mentioned it, I had to pee in my cup in between rounds, in between fights, because I only had 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
In between fights, not in between rounds. No, that would have been interesting.
People do that. You know that's a popular thing. A lot of guys pee in their cup between rounds. I swear to you, a lot of guys will pee in their cup between rounds. Wait a second. So, and you'll see a lot of guys, like coaches, like they'll lift their guy's thing and just spray some while you'll see it. I know a lot of guys who used to pee in there. You just kind of like splash water so you don't see it. Or what are you going to do? You don't want to fight on a full bladder. You can't. You're like, hey, they're like, hey, you're going to fight for the world title in 20 minutes, and the winner of this fight gets $100,000 US. And you got to pee. You're not going into that fight with a bladder full of urine. Yeah. You got to go.
Well, even under high stress, your bladder and your, will empty itself. Right? So like the Marines or the Navy SEALs call it the battle crap. So before they go into battle, they crap because when your adrenaline is high, the last thing your body can do is hold that stuff in. So it releases, which is...
A lot of fighters get that,
too. We saw that recently happen at the UFC with Felice Harrigan. The girl, pooped herself. So anyway...
It's the worst
feeling. You gotta go.
And the thing, when you're nervous, too, you always have to pee, right? So it's like, even when you're walking, like, man, what am I going to do? Right. So that was my embarrassing moment that no one knows. Now everybody knows.
Wow.
It was only 20 minutes. What are you going to do? You have gloves on, and it's not like it's the jock where it's like, hey, someone pull your jock down. Right. You wear steel cups.
Right.
Which means, for those who are listening, the steel cup is like a steel jock that has like a G-string. Yeah. So the string goes up the back, ties on the side. So it's not like it's an easy pull down and go. No, it's tightly put on. Right. Like, you can't take it off.
It has to stay in place. Okay, so that is your tournament story.
Yeah.
So moral of the story, don't stay dehydrated in the tournament. I don't know what you can't do that. So
what are you gonna do?
So pee in your cup. Pee in your cup if you do tournaments. Yeah. Okay, that took an interesting turn. So you were also, is this why you don't like tournaments, or are there other reasons?
I just think, back to the original reason, I don't think the best person always comes out. I think there's a lot of different variables.
Person coming out,
too many things happen. So the first person who fights, if you win and you knock your opponent out, then all of a sudden, you already have an extra 20, 30 minutes than the other people fighting in the second fight of the tournament. So there's more recovery time. Who knows how the injuries went? And you have to think, I'm talking about brain injuries again, because again, a lot of the studies, but in those first fights, your head gets rocked, it gets shook, you take some big shots in that first fight. Then that second fight, your brain can't take as much damage. No. So all of a sudden, maybe a jab now starts hurting you, rocking you. So guys are taking a lot more damage than I feel they would really need to. Because even in my tournament, like I was, again, in one night, like this is one of the highlights of my career, I got one of the knockouts of the year with Raymond Daniels, and Nikki and I ended up fighting to the fight of the year. that night. So I got 2, good awards from that one night, but it hurt. Like, it was tough. Like, I was, like, sore. I was beat up for days. Like, it was tough. And then you're on a plane the next day. Right. So it was tough. And I still feel, even though Nicky has 100 professional fights, and when I fought him, I only had, like, 13. I was still
that's crazy. Most of the guys that you fought had, like, way more experience than you.
So, like, I mean, that didn't matter. But, I mean, when you fight someone with that many fights, they're used to that. Their body's used to taking that damage. That was only, like, the 13th time I fought with no shin guards. He's fought over 100 times with no shin guards. So your shins are harder. Your knees are harder. You develop that hardness that your body gets used to. So I think that plays an advantage too. So I feel like I could have won that fight if it wasn't a tournament, and that's why the whole setup was to happen. We were supposed to fight in a non-tournament format.
Yeah, that would have been amazing.
I would have loved it because I was hitting him with so many low kicks, and I'm like, they're not doing anything. They're not slowing him down because I threw 100 in the fight 20 minutes ago, and so I didn't have that juice. So I still wish I would have shown that.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of a big regret for you and also for the fans because people would have really liked to have seen that.
We both still.
Probably one of the most beautiful things about doing what we do is you don't have to get punched in the head, but you can still be a part of the sport that you love in a really big way.
For sure. I think the fact that I can be on TV, every show, people hearing my voice, hearing my words, hearing my goal at the end of the day is to build this sport. It's and for people to look at me as one of the ambassadors of the sport and someone who's putting a lot of positivity on the sport. It's a big role, but I think I'm the perfect one for it.
How do we build it? I mean, before we get to this fight card, because I do want to go there, but how do we build a sport? I mean, in your opinion?
I still think it comes down to opportunities, and I think we just need to get it on TV. But again, a lot of it comes down, as a kid getting into the sport, you think about money. You see the Floyd Mayweathers, the Conor McGregors. You want to make money in the sport.
Yeah.
And in North America, it's just not at that level where it's motivating for people to do it. If you have an option as a young kid now, when you look at the UFC and all the people and all the money and all the opportunity, it's a lot better than kickboxing is right now. So if a lot of these guys, now the fact that Glory's here, a lot of these younger kids are starting to kickbox from a younger age. They're not having to do MMA. Like, even with me, like, it's been such a crazy for my whole career. There's times where I was having to do jiu-jitsu. I was looking for MMA fights. I was like, before Glory came along, there was nothing for us. I mean, I wanted to fight in, it was K1 at the time. And I never really wanted to do Muay Thai. It just wasn't for me. I wanted to do the big Japan, Asia thing. But there was just no opportunities. So that's when I said, okay, back to jiu-jitsu, back to MMA fights. I even signed to fight, but then the fight card went under. But just no opportunities. And I think so if these guys start seeing Glory and the product and, the great things that we're doing in the sport, I think a lot of these younger athletes are going to be more intrigued to stay in it rather than the UFC.
Well, speaking of great things, this actually is a great card.
It's huge.
I mean, there's a lot of really good fights on this. We were talking about some of the amateurs, which you're sitting out of.
There's a few kids that I'm really excited to see that I want to give a shout out. Jonathan DeBella, he's a Canadian kid from Montreal. He's doing some good stuff. He's really talented, really good to watch. So that's one to look out for.
They're all on the undercard.
Yeah, Jonathan DeBella is definitely the one to watch out for on that.
Now, this is a rematch. It's Chris Tapia versus James Guccione. Vic, that was the fight. You weren't here for that. Actually, I'm talking to somebody off camera. But James Guccione and Chris Tapia fought before, and it was extremely exciting. I mean, Guccione does not care if his hands are down. He's coming for you, and he can take some damage. Tapia, again, is a little bit more of a technician. They're a very good fight. Then after that is Chantel Perry versus Jenny Nadell. These are two girls.
She's Sarah Camp, right?
Yeah. So Jenny,
I met Longo through her.
Yeah, Sarah Longo. She comes out of their camp. She's extremely tough. Chantel Perry is like huge. She's like an avatar. Like she's like super tall and lanky.
But Jenny's super cool.
Yeah, she's super nice too. I mean, Chris Lacusa is a friend of mine. He trains at Anderson's Martial Arts.
Zaruk Adashev's tough too.
Yes,
he's
very,
really
very
tough. He fought on one of the Glories and he looked awesome. Yeah, he looked really good.
Matteo Maldonado he's facing against Matteo has a very bullying style. Okay. He will just kind of push you into a corner. So this is a good undercard. So you guys should definitely check that out as well. and then the Super Fight Series.
Yeah.
So walk me through the Super Fight Series and tell me a little bit about some of these guys. I'm not
Well, there's a lot of new Glory guys for the first time, so there's a big opportunity for them. We're bringing in a lot of Chinese fighters, so
really?
Chen Li is, I think, our third or fourth Chinese fighter we're bringing in because Glory's going to China this year, which is awesome. Other ones that stand out, there's a girl, the Anissa Mexen.
Mm-hmm.
She's got almost 100 professional fights.
Oh, wow.
She's incredible.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier about footwork, movement. That's the girl to watch. Her footwork is on point. She moves well. She attacks. She's hit, not get hit. Her footwork's really good, so I'd definitely watch out for her. There's both New York guys, Joe Taylor versus Ariel Sepulveda.
Yeah.
Joe Taylor's more from Buffalo, New York.
Mm-hmm.
Tough guy, son of a legend. His dad was a pro boxer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's super cool. Sepulveda fought for Glory before.
Yeah,
I think he lost to Dustin Jacoby.
Yeah, he lost to Dustin Jacoby via knockout. And see, the thing about Ariel, he's really, really, really strong.
Oh, yeah, it's a big physique.
Yeah, it's a big physique. He was actually a baseball player. Yeah, he's a Dominican guy, baseball player. Let's just hope he hits a home run that night, you know, like in the ring. And you know, he's a strong guy. So it's interesting to see how somebody comes back from a loss on such a big
I think
stage.
his last fight was actually in New York, and he lost to a Canadian, Joey George.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. I think that was last year, July.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, he's, you know, definitely wants to come back, and I've seen him in the gym, and he's training really hard for this. And, you know, it means a lot to fighters to be on the Glory stage.
Yeah, and especially in their hometown like this, too.
Mm-hmm. At Madison Square Garden.
Crazy.
No pressure. No pressure, everybody.
But that for the next one, Bailey Sudkin.
Okay.
From the UK. Kid's awesome. If you go on YouTube, he fought a 8-man tournament with a winner ends up getting a shot. Ended up being the finals was crazy. Both of them ended up getting Glory. The guy who won it is Mo Abdurrahman. Mm-hmm. He's fighting on the ESPN portion, but I've never seen this kid has heart.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you, 3 fights in one night. To get to Glory, like it was crazy. Like if you see it online, it's Road to Glory UK or Road to Glory England.
All the videos are on the website.
Yeah, the kid's 19 years old and like just a beast. Like he goes forward, good boxing, very technical. So I'm excited for that. But nothing beats that Pavel Zervalev versus Saulo Cavallari. That's like 2 beasts just beating the crap out of each other. Like that's gonna probably be the fight I'm most excited for. Easily the most excited
fight of the night.
I think so.
What is it about the style matchup?
Aggressive pressure fighters, hard hitting, like everything you want. Pavel Zervalev is one of those guys who fought all the big heavyweights in the world, came down a weight class, and he's just all power, comes forward like the guy's just a beast. And if you look at his physique, just incredible. Cavallari, just one of those Brazilians that just come forward, good combinations, like just fun to watch. But that's easily my pick for fight of the night. Cool.
And then we're going into
the ESPN part, which is awesome. There's every Glory card on the ESPN part. There's a 4-man tournament. This one's the featherweights where we have Kevin Van Nostrand and Mo Abdurrahman. Then you have Giga Chikadze, which is the tournament favorite, against Russian Alexei Ulyanov. That's going to be an awesome fight. Both technical. If Chikadze is that karate fighter versus Ulyanov is more, could mix it up really well. So that's going to be a nice technical fight. Van Nostrand's just that awkward, wild, southpaw, like very hard to figure out.
Yeah, he has a lot of fun in there.
Yeah,
it makes it fun to watch him, but you have no idea what he's gonna do.
He just constantly goes, and you're just like, like it was crazy because part of back home I was helping Matt Embry prepare for it, who unfortunately had to leave with injury. But it's a tough fight, like trying to prepare for someone. Just some injuries training that we had to pull him off from.
That's tough. It happens.
Yeah, but safety first, right?
Cool.
Safety first. Then fellow Canadian Josh Johnsey versus Elvis Gashi. Is that how you say his name?
Elvis Gashi, we've seen him in New York many, many times before. He's a southpaw.
Power guy.
He's a power guy. You know, nothing real fancy. He sticks to his bread and butter. He has very good timing, though, I will say.
Yeah. I seen him blasting those kicks. I was just worried. He keeps his chin slightly too high. For me. Yeah. So I just gotta Josh Johnson's really good at using his combinations and stuff. So, but Johnson's also been susceptible to counter punches too. So both guys need to watch out for the counter shots. And then the heavyweight, the big main event, Benjamin Adegbuyi, Gudo Innocence. It's more of I don't know if you've seen Adegbuyi fights like a middleweight. He's a heavyweight.
Just fast.
He's just very like good with his straight punches, active, good at mixing levels, punch to kick combinations. That's the one thing. Like I'm a purist with kickboxing, so I value a lot of people who value that whole like get aggressive and they're just throwing wild hands. That doesn't do it for me.
No.
I'm more of that person who values. I want to see the fighter mix his kicks. I want to see jab low kicks. I want to see you kick to punch, punch to kick. It's kickboxing, so yes, there's guys who are really successful who come in and overbox, but I like the guys who can put combinations together, who mix it up really well. Right. And Adegbuyi is one of those that can do it. And he actually fought the current champion, Rico Verhoeven, twice. Mm-hmm. Won a contender tournament to fight Rico again, but they're now training partners.
Oh,
so now they train together. So they're putting it off, but that's going to be another good fight.
Mm-hmm.
Gudo, the Brazilian, I don't know if you guys have to watch it. He got the knockout of the year. Demorio Dennis. It was my first time calling a Glory fight. It was Glory 27, Chicago. He has a spinning heel kick knockout.
I have seen that.
Yeah, vicious.
I have
vicious.
seen that. It's a very nice highlight.
Yeah. That's the ones you don't want to be a part of. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's going to be an incredible fight. So yeah, it's a good card.
And then we have the tournament winner.
Yeah, the tournament winner in the finals. I guess the two favorites, in my opinion, for that tournament would be Giga and maybe Kevin Van Nostrand. But Ulyanov shows a lot of promise. He did well in his debut with Glory. And this Mo kid won the Road to Glory England against that Bailey Sudkin kid in the final. And that's how he got his shot. So 21 years old, tall, fights hard. So we'll see.
I have to commend you for getting everybody's name right.
Sort of. I don't know about this. I have to ask about this Mo Abdurrahman.
Yeah.
That's the only one I'm not too sure about. Everyone else I'm good.
Do you practice it? Do you practice like I do, or do you wait to hear how the announcer says it, and then you're like, all right, because they check.
Oh yeah, when we do fighter interviews, that's when we'll sit there and be like, can you pronounce your name again?
Yeah,
and
slowly.
And then we'll put like
we'll spell it out phonetically.
And, yeah,
I do that a lot.
It
helps. It has to. People don't understand how hard that part is. I almost feel like it's like the hardest part when commentating.
I think so.
You know, like if you hear me call somebody by their first name over and over again, I can't say their last name.
Yeah,
that's usually
you just see what it is? Yeah. Usually you can tell.
That's usually
you can tell.
Like,
have you ever mixed up a name?
Oh my God, yes I have.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I have.
Happens.
And or I don't know if this happens to you, but you'll commentate a fight, and because you were so into it, after it happens, you don't remember it.
Oh no.
So you're going. It doesn't happen to you.
I have to write notes.
Yeah.
I keep like I put round 1, 2, 3 on my my commentary notes, and I'll just write in round 1 like a key point to know what he did well or what they did because I'll forget.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the show, they're like, "Okay, recap what happened." I'm like, "I don't even know who fought."
Oh my God, it's just
like who even fought? I'm like, who was the first fight? I don't know who won. I got no clue.
Yeah, you have
so,
to go back to your.
Go back.
Yeah.
There's so many things going on that a lot of times you can't even tell.
It's just that your brain is like constantly on. It's like I can watch a fight at home and then remember everything that happened, but not remember what I just commentated.
Oh yeah,
it's so
I think
weird.
I was listening. You were calling the one that I watched preparing for this one. It was you called that last one with Gashi and that Chris Lacusa. Yeah. That was the first time I heard you. Yeah, you got it right. I wasn't calling you out or anything like that. I
definitely got their names right.
I wasn't calling you out.
They look very different.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's tough. Like even the best do it, right?
Yeah.
There was one time in it was Todd and I calling, and it was one in Nice, and there's guys. It was the weirdest names, and we just at the end of the fight, I'm like, I still don't know who's who.
Yeah.
I still don't know who's who. And
tough.
you think it's easy, but it's confusing.
Not. It takes a lot of practice. It really is a skill. Like people will tell me all the time, like, how'd you get into commentating? Oh, I want to do that. I'm like, yeah, well, it's not as easy as just sitting with
the other trick I just picked up on. Todd gave me the trick. I have like a thesaurus list of words. So instead of saying the same word over and over, because when you think about it, you come from a martial arts background, you call pressure.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to put pressure on. He needs to be active. So you say those key words all the time.
Right.
But when first fight, needs to put pressure. Second fight, pressure. So you constantly say the same words. So I started writing a list of different words. He needs to go forward. He needs to be more aggressive. He needs to, put the pressure. He needs to close the space, close distance, So it's helping me with different words.
Well,
so
that's how the grades do it. Like Morrow always has weird, even if they're really weird.
Yeah.
They're funny, but they work and they paint a picture and they build a description. The one person I used to like joke around about was Roy Jones, because he would say stuff, but I don't really know exactly what he's saying. He's like, just like fighting, when water's wet, it rains.
That's pretty good.
So when they have like current participation, that's when they know a punch is coming. And you're like, no idea what you said.
Sure.
I have
yes.
no idea what you said, Roy Jones.
Well, you're Roy Jones, but so you must
Roy
be saying
Jones,
something
so
good.
It's amazing that you said that.
Actually, I had a guy that is crazy. You probably saw this, but there was a guy that I helped train once in a while. He fought Roy Jones on like this pros versus Joe kind of thing.
Oh, I remember that show.
It wasn't pros versus Joes, but it was something similar to that.
Yeah.
Like a fan fights Roy Jones.
That's terrifying.
I didn't know. Yeah. So he ended up getting knocked out, obviously, but I don't even know how they allowed it.
Is there anybody you've ever seen fight that you're like, I can't. I'm terrified of that person.
Mm-hmm. I'll fight anyone.
But even like a different weight. Well, that's true. But I look at Cyborg and I'm terrified. I'm terrified of Cyborg.
Really?
I'm so scared of Cyborg.
Just her image, her size.
Everything. I'm just terrified. I think she's a great fighter. I love her. I would love to watch her fight at any moment in time.
Who would you like her to see her with? Holly Holm?
Yeah. I think that would have been... I would have liked to have seen her with Jermaine as well. Unfortunately, that's not happening. But
it's because the Brazilians didn't want to fight, right?
No, it was... Jermaine got stripped of the title because she said that she didn't want to fight Cyborg because Cyborg had been busted for steroids years ago.
Okay.
So she didn't want to fight a steroid user. But that could be like a lot of people in combat sports that we just don't know about. So Absolutely. It was kind of like, I respect her wishes, but I was like, 145, you're fighting Cyborg, know?
That was a whole GSP thing too, wasn't it?
GSP wanted the sport to get cleaner, and that was his big issue. And he just was like, if I'm clean, I'm worried about fighting these guys and fix the sport, blah blah. And he was tired and exhausted. I think he had way too many concussions because a lot of the things that he would say were happening to him were things that you were talking about.
This is about GSP, you're saying.
When he retired, I think that the reason for him retiring is I think he had adrenal fatigue, and I think he had multiple concussions, and he needed a break for a while because he was fight back to back. And remember how Johnny Hendricks hit him? Yeah. Or Carlos Condit. That Carlos Condit kick to the head.
Oh yeah.
So I believe he was concussed multiple times.
I think most fighters are multiple concussed.
Yeah. And you had talked about it in great length. Your concussion.
It's scary. It's scary, and I always tell people, and it's like it's one of the negative sides of the sport, but it's usually the body or the brain go. Which one's gonna go? Like especially if you want a long career. That's why I value. There's a lot of these young athletes are deciding. I know in football and that kind of thing with all this research on CTE and all that kind of stuff. They're like apparently Dana White has CTE.
Yeah, he did. He went to Germany and had like a special surgery.
Rogan mentioned it on his podcast recently. But there's a lot of these kids are like, you know what? I'm 24 years old. I've been playing football since I was 4 years old. He's like, done. And they're retiring before they get these multi-million-dollar contracts because at the end of the day, your health is important, right? Yeah. So a lot of times it comes down to your body and your health. I have some fighters my friends have like 3-4 knee surgeries already, and I've been lucky with body injuries and stuff like that, but something's gonna go eventually. Yeah. So
no, I've had a ton of injuries too.
Yeah.
So and it definitely affects it, but I think that the most important thing is that people are honest with themselves and they understand sports science to know when they should recover, when they should take a break, when they should have the right nutrients.
Which is tough, right? That's the hardest part as an athlete. Like you want to keep going, so you win this amazing fight, you win your title, and it's like, hey, already they're booking you who you're fighting in 2-3 months, and I was like, oh, your head hurts, and you take a month off, then you're training, you get headaches. So just like people need the time to recover. Right. I think the recovery time is important. But if you're an athlete who can do that, that's amazing. But these young guys trying to put the grind in, they're putting in like, I don't know, some guys are putting 10, 15 fights a year, every 2-3 weeks, and they're not giving their self time to recover.
You did it with a full-time job. You did, right? Yeah. Now this is your full-time job though, right?
Yeah, I actually put teaching aside since February. I was a high school teacher in Toronto. For 10 years, my whole career. But I did a really good approach. Everyone was like, how did you do it? I was like, everything had a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that time to fool around. I didn't have that time to just, hey, I'm going to dance around. And no, if I hit the bag, I'm hitting the bag, like with full intention to develop my conditioning, develop the technique that I'm working at that time. And I actually trained only like 5 days a week, once a day.
Wow.
I made sure I had rest days. Everyone's like, oh, most fighters go into their fights injured. I'm like, why?
No.
Why?
I mean, there's the nagging. You have nagging things.
Little nagging ones, but I mean, there shouldn't be a reason why you're hurting yourself so close to camp time. It's like, I always call it like the studying. Like if you're gonna write an exam, everyone, you'll be studying for months. You know the information, but in the last week, you start freaking out. You start panicking. I didn't do enough. So you start training hard. I didn't do enough sparring. I got to do sprints now. You're like, no, it's too late now. Like, I mean, you've done your work. You just have to keep your mind clear, stay relaxed, and that's how you're going to perform better than trying to play catch up, because your mind plays tricks on you. Your mind plays tricks on you when you're fighting.
It's your worst enemy too when you're fighting. When it's funny because when you commentate amateurs, you see that there's no thought. It's like, it reminds me like in cartoon characters when it's just dust, like, and you just see arms and legs and then
That would be hard to commentate.
It is extremely hard to commentate. You're like, what's a roundhousey type of overhand left kicky thing? But
they're doing the same thing over and over, and you just continually say it.
A smart fighter, you can see that they're relaxed in there. They're seeing things. Everything has a purpose, just like you said, and it's interesting. But I am very excited to hear you commentate. I'm so happy to have you in New York, and I've watched your career for a long time. You're a star in and out of the ring, and I appreciate you taking some time to hang out with me.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's been super cool.
And now we've got to take you for some New York pizza.
All right, that's fair.
Thanks,
I hope it lives up to it now.
Now I'm nervous. No, it will. It will.
I did come once, and there is a type of pizza that I kind of want to find again. It was like buffalo wing pizza. Sounds gross, but it was actually pretty good.
All
I had
right.
5 years ago.
We'll
but
find
buffalo
it.
wing. That was my post Friday Night Fights celebration, because there was a little pizza place beside the Holiday Inn. So I'd go over and I would get this weird slice.
Carbs and friedness and junk.
I'm Italian. I live off of carbs.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll eat a plate of pasta, and then what do you do when it's done? You get the bread and you gotta
put it through
sauce.
I'm half Puerto Rican, half Italian, which explains why I'm so calm and mild-mannered.
Yeah.
All right, let's go get something to eat.